where the actual mechanism is resting is supposed to be, actually, this should be over a little bit. But yeah, so the spot will be set, and again, it's plus or minus an inch, right? And the randomization is the part that we do after you have initialized, right? And that's the part where it flips back and forth. And just so you know, they're independently random, right? These aren't connected to each other, so it's all independent. They could end up on the same one multiple times. And then as we press the beacons, like if the red team was pressing this one, that's one. But if they press it again, 5 seconds, I forgot. Press it again, that's when the whole beacon goes. So 5 seconds, and it has to be a different robot. That's what the rest are going to watch for. Oh, I thought I did. That's where they're resting. Any others? Up there. Can you remove balls from where? So as far as I can tell, the logos are okay. It's these ones that you can't. It's the in and out. But you also have to watch for any blocking access, which gets a little dangerous when you're in somebody else's zone. I can double check. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So Mike, that's good for me. Good. Come on, let's think some strategies here. That's why I like hearing it at this event. Okay. Yeah.
You have to touch the thing twice before you can actually put people in there.
Oh, okay, that's a good question. So actually, activating the rescue beacon versus putting people in the shelter. That's the question. So actually, the activating of the rescue beacon is completely separate from the shelter. They just happen to be an attached piece. But if you didn't do anything with the rescue beacon, you would still get the points for the people in the shelter. And vice versa. If you only did the rescue beacon and not the people in the shelter, you're still going to get points for that. So they are a connected piece of the game, but they're not connected in points. We have another one over here. Go ahead. Oh, okay.
Where does the mountain high zone start?
Okay, great. So in the game manual, which is now posted, if you guys ever wanted to bring it up on your smartphone, so I'm just going to double check while I'm doing this. So the low zone is close to the first bar, right? And again, to be in the low zone, you have to be completely in if you want all those points. If you're not completely in, you get half the points. And then the mid zone just goes up to the bar right below where the panel ends. So I don't know, maybe you can see better if I do it from this side. So low zone to here, and mid zone is to here, and then we've got the high zone which goes all the way up to here, right? So again, all these are low, mid, high, which you do both during autonomous and driver controlled, but then you don't start to do this part until end game. Great question. Whoever's walking around tonight, you can choose.
What do you sorry, when you go the
Okay, great question. So he's talking about when they're trying to score into the shelter with the preloaded climbers, if they accidentally drop it outside the field, right? So first of all, that climber's down. He didn't score in the shelter, right? And but the main thing that the rest are watching for is, did you purposely do it? Was it inadvertent to put it there? If it looks like you're actively trying to score it in the basket, no problem. But if you're way over here, maybe we do the warning followed by penalties if you keep doing that. But I don't know why you would. That'd be worse for your team. But it's a good question. So you don't get the penalty immediately just for accidentally dropping it. It's all about whether you were doing it on purpose. Good question. There's a whole page of penalties for autonomous. So they're asking if there's any penalties for autonomous. Some of the penalties, again, have to do with during autonomous, you're not allowed to cross over into the other alliance's zone until 10 seconds after autonomous has started, which is a very new rule. Normally in autonomous, the whole 30 seconds is the thing, but we're doing different evaluations based on the part during autonomous. They have a couple rules in general for all robots throughout the game that can apply in autonomous. So you're not supposed to cross into the opposing alliance's climbing zone. But if you happen, they know during autonomous that could accidentally happen. Like it didn't look like your robot was aiming to go there, but they got nudged by some other robot or caught up into debris. So our goal would be that immediately after autonomous ends and you started driver control, that you have started to get out of that situation. And if you don't start to get out of that situation, then we could evaluate a penalty. And then the normal ones, anything that looks like it's intended to damage, like it looks like, hey, you're trying to aim your robot to wherever you think the other robot's going to go. Sometimes that's a little hard to prove during autonomous because we have to see it happen maybe more than once to know that was your goal. But those are most, like, autonomous tends to be pretty lenient as far as penalties, and a lot of it has to do with, it doesn't appear intentional, which over time we get used to your robots, and that's where we would tell if that's what you were doing. Good, great question.
What are the angles of the
I don't know, Dale built the field. Dale, what are the angles of the mountain? You don't know? Whatever you measure here, that's why you get to come down later. You can measure. Go ahead. You know the height to here? Everybody's going to come down and measure later. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, Dale has a tape measure, so yeah, so please come down and measure. This is the field built spec. Again, the zip lines are a little wonky, but we'll get those improved over the season. But, okay, just a few more questions. Is there an IR beacon in the rescue beacon? Nope, Dale's shaking his head. I didn't build these, so I didn't read about an IR beacon. So, yeah, it has to do with you detecting the color. And maybe that's something you want to measure later, right? With your color sensor. There's one more over there. Go ahead and yell. Can you release the fibers from both sides? Actually, there are only tabs on the front side of the mountains, and these tabs are for the red, and those tabs are for the blue. If you want to just force the blue because you want your ranking points to go up higher, which some of us know that strategy, that's great, but you have to do it without getting any other penalties, right? Without violating any other game rule. And again, getting in this climbing zone is violating a game rule, and especially if it looks like you're doing it to score them some points for your ranking points of your match, right? So we just have to, if you have some way to do it with an arm that doesn't get into that zone, maybe that would be acceptable. I don't know what your robot looks like. Okay, one more question over there. Okay.
How immediate are the starting positions? Red 1, red 2, like red 2, there's like a specific location.
Yeah, so the starting positions, actually, there's a lot of room this year, right? Because for red, you're supposed to be on this side of the field, so he's just asking how lenient it is, and you just have to be touching the ball. So you do have to be completely in the tape, right? So the outer edge of the tape towards the field, touching the wall. You cannot be touching the mountain, and you cannot be touching your alliance's robot. So it's mostly just a side. Go ahead. Oh yes. So red 1, red 2. That's a good question. If you're newer to working on alliances, we will assign you where you're. Well, actually, this year the alliance station is wide open because we don't have field control system. So we say red 1, red 2 just so we can keep track of your matches and make sure the right teams are here. But from our perspective, we don't care what robot gets set where. And I don't think the alliance stations matter as much either because they're not doing the field control system. There's a box, but maybe you can stand wherever, like right now it's not marked off. So remember in the last 2 years you had to stand where your controllers are. Well, this year you're bringing your controller. So it'll be interesting. Okay, last question. And then, So what do we have tables for the controls? Because we have to put them down during autonomous mode, I'm hoping we do tables. I can't promise how big they're gonna be, and you're gonna have to work with your other lines to make sure all your stuff fits, but yeah, tables make sense to us. Will we have tables that lead? Maybe not, right? I mean, league play is, supposed to be quick in and out, right? Less material. But, okay, so we're gonna walk over back to Kathy. Okay. Well, actually, we're spending 10 minutes where they can come down and see the field. So you can ask some more questions and I can answer, but yes, please come down, measure, feel, play with the zip line and the LEDs.
Blocking.
Five minutes. You have 5 minutes to relax and clear the field. Completion, please step over to the live stream table. Please step to the live stream table. Allow the clear Mitchell and Gail Jordan. Gail Jordan and Shane and Gary Mitchell to the live stream table. 5 minutes for the design back presentation to 5 minutes.
Access to the mountain or floor goals.
Yeah, there we go. We're not taking stuff at 1 o'clock. You can have more opportunities after we do our presentation.
I just want to do a quick announcement. These boxes will be zip tied to the mountains with one zip tie at the top of each box. So you can still dislodge it, but they will have a little zip tie. Okay, just to let you know, Mr. Steve Felton over here. Let's give him a hand for Steve. You walk in the library and you see that this year in this nice gym. We've had a few technical difficulties, but we're still getting there. We've got a great game. What do you think of the game? Is it more exciting than last year's game? How many of you are ready to climb? How many are thinking wheels, treads, spin? You're thinking about that kind of stuff? Okay. So this is Steve Felton was so excited that when he went down to try to take care of some of our technical difficulties, I hope we do have live. Do we have live stream again? Krishna, are we live again? We are live. Welcome to our live stream audience yet again. I hope you found the new link. We just sent it out by email, we put it on our website, and we sent it out hopefully by Facebook. So hopefully I have people joining us. Steve went down and actually ordered the field already from Andy Mark. Yay, big for Andy Mark. Woo! He ordered a half field. If you're one team and you have a small space, you can see there's no center goal this year. There's no need to order a full field if you've got one team. Just order one half field. You got one goal, you got a beacon, you got a zip tie and a shelter, you're good to go. And if you're a veteran team and you did our challenge last year, Cascade Effect, and you did block party, you may have some wiffle balls and blocks laying around. So Steve had those, and since he went out and ordered it for half a field without the field elements, because he owns those, cost him $208 plus $54.62 shipping and handling for $262.62. That beats going out to Home Depot and trying to buy all this stuff and trying to build it yourself. So that's good enough. Full field is like $450. So with that, I'm going to take off my cat. I have a new hat, cat herder, for being First Tech Challenge affiliate partner. I'm going to take it off for a minute. With my hair. And I want to talk to you as the ORTOP Senior Program Manager. ORTOP has a dedication to education and learning as our mission.
to open the doors to the worlds of science and technology for Oregon's youth. What you learn, and you heard it, we now have the core values are in the game rules. They're not outside in some other manual, the mentor manual, whatever. The core values are now part of the game rules. What's inside the game rules counts. So what you learn is more important. What you learn is more important than what you win. Remember, that's in the game manual. We're on track. We're at 125 teams this morning when we checked. So we're on track to have about 200 teams. Last year we piloted a very, very successful FTC league program. Who was in the league last year? Yeah, good. We started with 5 leagues, and we've had a great deal of interest in starting more leagues. And I think that's partly due to the fact that 70% of all the teams who participated in the league found themselves at the state championship. Wow. So, returning our, the Hillsborough League, hosted by Batteriesin Black. Yay. Stevenson League, hosted by Hotwire. Portland League, hosted by Benson High School Robotics. I love you guys. This is my tribe. Central Oregon League, hosted by Summit High School Robotics. They're taking over leadership of that. Batteriesin, with the new host, Pendleton High School Robotics, and new leagues that are forming. Portland at OMSI, hosted by Team Access. We're going to be set up right in Turbine Hall on 4 Saturday mornings. It's going to be awesome, so all the OMSI guests can watch you actually participate. See the thrills and spills of this. Oh, speaking of spills, I want to point out the outside edge of this. They're just doing this to protect the gym floor today, so that's not really what you will see at a competition. We will not have tiles on outside. However, we will have them on the outside edge of the goal in case one of the robots falls outside of the field. We are expecting the true thrills and spills of technology this year. And finally, I just got this awesome email from Southern Oregon. I hope all of you are, hi Southern Oregon, I hope that you are tuning in. But we have a possible 21 teams that want to participate in the league down there. So that is awesome. Finally, we're looking to help to form a league in the greater Salem area somewhere, and then do mean greater Salem area. So if you're listening on live stream and you're in the Salem area and you want to host a league, please give me an email. Also, we still will have qualifying tournaments. We understand at Ortup that not every school, not every team can participate in a league. It just doesn't work for them for some reason, geographically, whether it's finances, time, whatever. So if they just want, you want to just come to a qualifying tournament, what kind of robot all winner from the qualifying tournament in January, that's cool. We will have qualifying tournaments. Where? I don't know yet. It's the beginning of the season. Okay, schedule. I have dates. I just don't have locations yet. League meets are going to be happening in mid-November to early December. The league championships and qualifying tournaments will be, and this is all up on the website, January 16th and 17th, 30th and 31st. So we're going to get all of our qualifiers and all of our league championships done on those 4 days. All 200 of you are going to participate in some event across those 2 weekends. So you participate in one of those, not 2, 1. A team goes to one league championship, or a team goes to one qualifier. If you're a qualifying tournament team, you go to qualifiers. If you're league teams, you go to league championship. Okay. Then, super qualifier weekend. We piloted this program for FTC last year. We're the only region that was allowed to do it. This year, there are other regions piling on to do super qualifiers. And ours, because we just love FTC so much, it's going to be on Valentine's weekend. Woo! Okay? So bring your chocolates when you see me. Okay? And then the Oregon FTC State Championship is going to be earlier than we've ever had it, February 27 and 28. So that is our schedule. It's up on the website. Mark those dates as I can't do anything else. We are looking for venues for events, so email me. Let's see here. And then I'm supposed to tell you about other exciting opportunities. There's back, where are you? Yeah, they're providing our live feed today, which is great. And they're going to host something called First 1 Week. Can I have one of you, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to give me an overview of what 1 week is. Quick. Elevator speech. Let's see how fast you can do this. While we're walking up here. Also, team 8610, are you in the house, Paper Tech? Paper Tech's going to start a bulletin board on a publicize it, but keep in mind, it is not the official game forum. It's a great place for you to like lost steam a little bit, chat, talk, get some little bit of advice, but it is not for deciding the rules. And we are going to have some robotic manufacturing tours provided by some local companies. And first of all, we're going to where are you? 30 seconds. Give you a promo for 1 week.
Okay, so basically, for the first week following this challenge or this announcement kickoff, Monday until Saturday, we're going to have the field set up at a location where teams can come in and they can actually test out designs where they can see how the field elements all work together. And then at the very end of this week, we'll have a scrimmage where all the teams can showcase their designs and see how they compete in an actual real-life competition setting. And so we'll put up all the full details, we'll send it out via our Facebook and other forms of social media, and you can come check that out, where you can actually test out your designs. So definitely check it out.
So are you saying to me that in 1 week, we're going to have some teams actually going to build a robot to do this challenge?
Yep.
Whoa, brilliant. Awesome. Okay. So how do you find out about these great opportunities? Number 1, email. Okay, really important that you get an email from me, Kathy Streeter. Kathy-Streeter@ortop.org. And that the primary way I send email to all of you is the Oregon FTC update. And I send it to a mail list called Ortop FTC. As of last weekend, we are now a Google group. We've subscribed all of you to the Google group. Please check your spam filters, your junk mail, your IT administrator if you're not receiving my email. It's really important that you do. How else do I send out information? Well, I send out official information that you may have seen in the emails, but just fun stuff. Links that I don't want to like cloud up and crowd in on an email, I'll post up on the Facebook page. So I suggest if you're a team that you like the Oregon First Tech Challenge Facebook page. And if you really want to get the posts, I suggest you find a button that says you doubly like this, or you want to receive the notifications, or you want to whatever. Because for whatever reason, Facebook would like me to pay $5 per every post to send it to everybody. So right now, they can only send it to about 10 people out of 500, unless you really, really like us. Okay, next. The National First Tech Challenge Facebook page, that one, Twitter. The first people in Manchester really, really, really like Twitter. And so they like the tweets, they put a lot of good information up there. I suggest that someone on your team monitor the tweets. Let's see here. What else? Lastly. My husband just told me last night that that's not a word, so I'm going to say finally. Finally, I have a few words of advice as your first tech challenge, well, as your senior programs manager, because I'm interested in education. This is a new season with a lot of new tech and a lot to learn. In a way, all of us are rookies again this year, because we have a new control system, we're programming in Java, we're going to be programming in FTC App Inventor. It is a mountain of a challenge, and I'm not even talking about the field game. Just getting over these programming hurdles and configuring your phones and all of that is a huge hurdle before you even start programming. And I want to say to you that the team members who are successful, who will be successful, are the ones who will take charge and own their own work and their own outcomes. It is in trying and failing and trying again, that is when you're learning. That is when you're truly embracing and learning. You can't watch engineers do what they do. You have to do it yourself. You have to be the hands-on. You have to be the one struggling and figuring this out until all the lights come on, the light bulbs. ORTOP has a value, and that is student design, student built, student driven. Use your mentors and your coaches wisely. Use them as resources. They are there to guide you, to learn from, to bounce ideas off of. Please ask them questions and expect that sometimes they're going to answer your question, and sometimes they're going to come back with you. If they're a really good mentor, they're going to come back with you with another question as an answer to your question to make you think harder. Those who own their own learning create a true path to success. That is what's meant by being a winner. You have my full permission to kick your mentor out if you want to figure stuff out as a team. You are owning this, okay? Don't kick them out too much or her because you really do need them. So be kind, but be able to say, we're going to brainstorm through this. I was very proud of a team last year that tried a wacky idea and they worked on it all year and really did not fully succeed at it, and their mentor hung in there with them to allow them to continue to do that. And they learned so much through the process. You've seen it on all the shirts. It's up on the first website. It's about more than robots. It's about more than winning a match or a tournament. And at the end of the season, all of you at the end of the season, whenever your season ends, whether it's the end of the league championship or the end of a qualifying tournament, the end of the super qualifiers, if it's the end of the state championship, or if it's at the end of the super regionals in Oakland, which now has dates, or it's at the end of the world. I want you to ask yourself, what did I learn? And I certainly hope the answer will be a lot. So, with that, good luck to all of you. Be gracious professionalism. Professionalism. No, you can be professionals. You can be professionals too. I would now like to welcome the 2014 FTC Challenge World Championship Volunteer of the Year, awarded in St. Louis this past April, Mr. Dale Jordan. Yeah, give me another applause for Dale. Hey, has anyone seen Dale's awesome 3D printed robots on the Facebook page? Yeah. Dale, I'm getting emails from around the world, people wanting those prints. Are we ready to release those? Yeah. Oh, I know, I have to do that for you. Okay, I'm the one that's holding it up. I've got to receive the document. So, Dale, please go ahead and tell them what you want to tell them this year. Dale will be your lead first Tech Challenge Field Technical Advisor. I like to refer to you as our Chief Technical Officer for ORTAP. Here you go.
Okay, I guess one of the first things I want to know with all this new tech is how many of you in the audience took the summer off? Nobody? Oh, a few kids, okay. That means all the rest of you have probably mostly had your hands on the new tech, is that right? How many have had your hands on the new tech stuff? Oh, awesome. Now, all of you that didn't do anything, take a look and find out those teams that have, because there is a lot to learn this year, and we all need help. Nobody's going to know all of it. I've spent the whole summer poking at this stuff, and I still feel like half of it I'm in the dark, and that's why we divvied up the presentation on this today amongst 3 different people. There's a lot to learn, just a lot moving forward. The fun part about this is that we're all in this together. There are no experts at this point. We're just all kind of fumbling through. So if I can figure out how to run this thing. So the old system is retired. The NXT is at end of life. Lego's not going to build it anymore, so it's no longer allowed. Samantha's retired, as well as the FCS. Now, I go really for the FCS, although the last few years we did learn in Oregon how to work around all of its idiosyncrasies, and there was really only one tournament down at Oregon State where it turned into the tournament from hell. So by and large, we got by with that. So now we're into a realm where we have a brand new set of challenges. So even us FPAs have got a lot to learn and poke at. We don't even know what our role is going to be for the coming season, to be honest, because everything is now in the team's hands. Okay, so replacing this, and I pulled this slide off the Modern Robotics webpage because I think that captures the essence of everything that's going on there. All the components there are pretty much now what you have to work with. You've got a couple of cell phones, your joysticks that you're familiar with, and then a bunch of new electronics. So to start with, we have the driver station. Now the teams are providing their own. You got the two joysticks through whatever cabling and hubs are necessary to the cell phone. Moving on to the robot. There's your robot controller. Those two items there basically replace the NXT and Samantha. We've got a power distribution module and that everything feeds through, and that plugs into the phone along with a bunch of other crap. So moving on. If you are a returning team and you are, let's say, financially challenged, as probably most of us are, you can get by pretty easily with the legacy system. You have one module, you'll be allowed two of those that you plug into the power distribution module, and now you can run all your old devices. Well, almost all your old devices. You can plug in your old motor controllers, servo controllers, your old Lego or high-technic sensors, they all plug into there. You're allowed two of those, so that would basically give you 12 connections into the system. I say most things work in there. You're not allowed to use Lego motors anymore. These devices will not power Lego motors, so you'll be forced into some of the newer servos and things like that. If you want to go beyond that, then you can start adding the new stuff, the new motor controller, the new servo controllers, and then plug into your existing motors and the like. Now, modern robotics, you may or may not know, is basically owned by the same parent company as High Technique. So these new controllers and stuff are basically the old controllers with a facelift, and now instead of plugging into the NXT world, they now go connect through USB. And they've added power pole connectors instead of the screw terminals. But the rest is more or less the same. They do run a little bit faster. Moving on then beyond the motor control stuff. Oops, I hit something bad. There we go. Our sensors. We have a new sensor module that will allow you to plug in all sorts of manufactured sensors. The emphasis on manufactured. Of course, modern robotics is showing their three sensors there. In a nutshell, this is basically the old prototyping board that's been repackaged, and they've added an I2C interface. So if you're familiar with the prototyping environment, you're already 90% there with what you need to know about running this thing. So that's kind of in a nutshell about what the new system's about. I could go into great detail about programming and these other things, but that has very little value unless you're sitting down in front of it and going through it. And there are some documents that were put out even in the early beta phase that were actually very good and very helpful for those of us that jumped in early. So, what about the ORTOP experience? We've been actually running these things. We built 6 3D printed robots that are all running the new tech. We were at, I'd say, several outreach events, actually a lot of outreach events. Some were indoors, some were outdoors. We even ran in 100-degree heat for 2 days outdoors, and things stayed up. At some of our events, we basically ran these robots continuously for 8 hours. We had approximately 2,000 kids have already driven these robots, all with the new tech, and they've been used for a couple of training sessions. So we've got some hours on these things. And so we're like, well, what worked quite well? Wi-Fi Direct actually worked really well. Once we got the devices paired up, they tended to stay paired. In fact, as we have labeled which controllers go with which, we just go to places and we turn them on and they just boot up and connect and we're ready to run. Quite a relief from what we encountered with the old system. Some of the environments we were in, there was a lot of Wi-Fi traffic, and they seemed to be quite happy in there. Occasionally, we did lose communication, but it was easily restored. I think total for some of our long days, we had like 1 or 2 drops that we had to basically disconnect and reconnect again, and that could be done from the driver's station. So at this point, the Wi-Fi Direct looks like it's working quite well.
Try to get as close to the centered as we can, yeah, without being.
Because that's always determined from Wi-Fi out. So we'll see how it goes up in there. The interface for the driver station and stuff, because we a lot of times we get helpers to come around from a variety of backgrounds. We just hand them when we do a couple quick points. They grab it, they're up and running, and they don't seem to have any difficulties whatsoever in understanding what's going on. We had just one simple teleop program that we ran, and it just continued as a simple program ran. But the program ran, we didn't have things dying in the middle. It was very, very reliable, that part of it. Okay, now for the other. The USB connections, both on the driver station and the robot controller, is very funny right now. This is beta. They claim to have a fix for this when they do the final release. But, you know, generally when you switch systems and stuff like that, problems never go away. They really kind of change in form. And this was, you know, simply the only real ugly that we encountered. There will be several times during the day that the USB would just lose contact with the controller, and many times we had to go basically reboot the controller, recycle power, and actually reconfigure the robots. So we can't wait for these new fixes coming in there. If you guys are starting, you can start now, and I know it's probably a couple weeks out yet before they release the new software. So if you're going through this and you have things drop out, don't panic, just stay persistent, recycle power enough times, and you re-enter the data, and things will come up and run. And generally when they're up and running, they run for several hours at a time. Now, we did encounter problems during the 8-hour days and things like that, that things would just die. We think that's mostly related to probably just battery life. Again, for this going down the road, if the battery off or the gold battery would start to get weak, things go down, it's kind of hard to find out what happened there. So the moral of the story, I think it's true for past seasons, is keep your batteries charged as you go. The phones in our 8-hour shifts, they were only good for about 4 hours. After that, then we had to pull things out and charge. Well, charging rate on these phones is slow. And I think they're old enough variety which you can't even get the chargers that will even run faster on them. I haven't tried that out yet, but that's something to think about. So keep those batteries charged as you go. We've also did just a little bit of exploration with the sensors. We didn't use any of that for our demos, but in looking at that, if you're used to the way things work with the NXT, you're in for a few surprises. The program loop, where you're going to get all your data and updates, it is not a uniform sampling rate. It will vary between 10 and 20 milliseconds, and even more than that, but typically between that. And if you're into writing control feedback systems, such as pit controllers and stuff like that, that can wreak havoc on that. So those that are in that mode, expect to spend some time to work around these problems. Also, the sampling rate of the sensors is much slower than is possible with the NXT. If you had some simple analog inputs to the NXT, it was possible to sample at a 3 millisecond rate. Forget that here. A case in point where that's important was the high-technique gyro. I figured a lot of teams use that to help them turn and drive straight and stuff these days. I was not successful in making the gyroscope stable in these
Why isn't it moving?
So if you
We got a delay.
want to use gyroscopes and things like that to help you stabilize and control your robot, you're probably going to want to migrate to some of these manufactured sensors. And there are a variety out there that are super expensive, that are going to give you the data you want.
A little bit. There we go.
So I think
we're going to, no, down a little bit more.
That we have with our experience so far. Hopefully when the new release
tiny bit more
comes out,
straight
some
down.
of these things are improved, and my words like
There we
this
go.
sucks.
There.
So,
Oh,
going forward,
it's mine.
I feel this should be a really exciting opportunity to learn and work with the new system.
The very top of this.
I have enjoyed
What
the
happened
fact
to going
that
for?
now I don't have programming right now.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's not something that
We just went to going forward. Let's see where we are with going forward.
slowly acquired. We're all
Now it's
learning
going forward. You're
together.
cutting off going forward.
So if you're struggling with a problem or something, there's plenty of resources on the web, but look around, get the
We have a delay, so we can't see what you're doing until you get to the
And what's the
break.
data on
10
some of
seconds
these
away.
problems? Nobody's asking you to share your trade secrets on this cool algorithm you're using.
There we go.
But if it comes to,
We're good.
physical
I think we're
power,
good. No, we need to move it a little bit. See, we just cut off this edge. Just tiny bit. Oh, no, we're still moving.
That's when I moved it.
That's when you moved it.
This should be good now.
I think we are good.
As things go on, in the past, what I found, being available to help out, is that most of the communications where teams are having problems actually goes on between teams today. By far and away more than any other form of communication path. So guys, make use of that. Anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, oh, yeah. That's correct, as of today. There was some discussion that they might enable that. I wouldn't hold my breath on that, given the problems that we're going to be facing, that I certainly would put that lower on my priority list. Also, there's a thing with the motor controllers, if you want to read the encoders and things like that, that makes them run slower, because you have to switch the controller from the write mode to the read mode, and that takes extra cycles, so your whole loop time really slows down. So my advice is that unless you're really financially constrained and you don't need to read encoders or something like that, just go to the new system. Save yourself some grief. You can basically change the old motor controllers. Whereas before you could go for those. This new system, it doesn't support
Welcome to the 2015-2016 First Tech Challenge. Let's hear from our very first Tech Challenge Dean's List Award winners.
Getting started with a new culture can be a bit complex, but we're here to help you out. When Dean Kamen and Woody Flower started the first robotics competition, they wanted to incorporate the ethos of gracious professionalism.
They recognize that training is a commodity, while education exemplifies the added value. True education is a wise integration of the initial training and inspiration.
Our first programs are about the inspiration piece, the part that enables true education.
The ideals of gracious professionalism tie education to success. Graciousness is about empathy, a greater understanding, and compassion.
Professionalism is more about the rational side of your brain. Professionalism is about the deal that is made with society.
Society gave professionals a bunch of special knowledge, and with great power comes great responsibility.
Professionals have an obligation to give back to society and use that special knowledge ethically.
Keeping gracious professionalism in focus is absolutely essential and sometimes really elusive, so first needs your help.
Remember to treat everyone in your first community with respect and kindness, and to always represent your best self.
What you do is much louder than what you say. The transmitting medium for the GP culture.
So go forth and represent the best of yourself in verse.
I could not have said it better myself.
This season, First Tech Challenge challenges you to uphold and promote the core values of FTC. We display gracious professionalism with everyone we engage with and in everything we do. We act with integrity. We have fun. We are a welcoming community of students, mentors, and volunteers. What we learn is more important than what we win. We respect each other and celebrate our differences. Students and adults work together to find solutions to challenges. We honor the spirit of friendly competition. We behave with courtesy and compassion for others at all times. We act as ambassadors for FIRST and the First Tech Challenge. We inspire others to adopt these values. And now, welcome to the First Tech Challenge and this year's game, First Rescue. A team consists of 2 drivers, a coach, and a robot. The robot must be built from materials specified in the game manual and fit within an 18-inch sizing cube. After the match starts, it can grow to any size. Each match is played with 4 randomly selected teams, 2 per alliance. Your alliance partner for one match may be your opponent in another. The game is played on a 12-foot square playing field with a foam tile floor and 1-foot-high walls. At opposite corners of the field are 2 mountains, each divided into red and blue climbing zones. Each mountain also has 3 alliance-specific goals. At the top of each mountain is an all-clear signal, which can be pivoted in either direction. A zip line is fastened to the side of each mountain. 3 climbers are affixed to the zip line and held in position by stops connected to 3 triggers at different levels. Near the bottom of the zip lines are shelters mounted on the outside of the field wall. Next to the shelters are lighted rescue beacons, push buttons to control the color of the lights. In front of each beacon is a beacon repair zone. Between the beacon repair zones and mountains are taped off floor goals. There are 8 more climbers in addition to the 6 climbers on the zip lines. Debris will also be introduced onto the field. This consists of 50 blocks 2-inch square and 30 balls 2.8 inches in diameter. The 4 robots are placed on the field in their respective alliance areas. They must touch the perimeter wall, but cannot touch the mountain or another robot. Teams may preload up to 2 climbers onto each robot. Then the field personnel randomize the rescue beacon lights and disperse the 80 pieces of debris onto the field. Each match begins with a 30-second autonomous period, followed by a 2-minute driver control period, which includes a 30-second endgame. During the autonomous period, if a robot presses the rescue beacon reset button corresponding to their alliance color, they earn 20 points. If their partner pushes the same button, they earn an additional 20 points for a total of 40. Robots should choose wisely. Selecting the wrong button earns points for the opponent. Each preloaded climber scored into an alliance-specific shelter earns 10 points. At the end of the autonomous period, if a robot is parked within the floor goal or beacon repair zone, the alliance earns 5 points. If a robot is parked partially on a mountain low zone, it earns 5 points, or 10 points if it's fully on the low zone. A robot parked in the mid zone earns 20 points. And if a robot can climb to a mountain high zone, it earns 40 points. During the driver control period, debris scored in the floor goal counts 1 point each. Debris scored in the mountain low goal counts 5 points each. Debris in the mid zone counts 10 points each. And debris in the high zone counts 15 points each. Climbers placed in the shelter are worth 10 points, and climbers already in the shelter from the autonomous period are counted again for an additional 10 points each. Climbers that have slid down an alliance's zip line are worth 20 points each. As in autonomous, robots parked on the mountain can be worth 5, 10, 20, or 40 points depending on the level attained. Only during the end game, the last 30 seconds of the match, may robots climb the cliff zone. Claiming an all-clear signal earns 20 points. Finally, if a robot can hang from the pull-up bar at the end of the match, it's worth 80 points. We want you to have fun and play hard at the competitions, but always remember gracious professionalism. There are penalties for teams that break the rules. For example, pinning another robot, blocking access to the mountain with floor goals, Tipping over an opponent's goal and controlling more than 5 game pieces at a time are also penalties. Please read both parts of the game manual and follow the Q&A game forum for the complete rules and penalties for first rescue. And again, remember your gracious professionalism. Have fun and good luck. Go First Tech Challenge!
So why not participate in if you're doing a really big program in Better, it's laid out on campus, monthly teaching and first regularly growth, and getting around and the defining the particular part of the program to change can be challenging for a large program. I know that MIT Alabama, which is based on, has been used for very sophisticated Android apps. So there are plenty of people who are successful at navigating through the campus, but it's a bit of a stylistic issue as whether you're more comfortable in the two-dimensional drag and drop, plug things together world, or more comfortable in the traditional programming language where the program reads from top to bottom and you bite the program up into files. Another reason to consider Java is at the college level, at the career level, there are a lot of opportunities where Java will be a big plus. I'm sure there are people who get paid to use that vendor, but I expect that the number that pay to use Java is much larger. Because of the way that Java is based on Android Studio, I'm going to guess there may be ways of customizing the libraries for the very sophisticated team. I'm not sure that you can do that with App Inventor. I'm not even sure you can do it with Java. So these are things to speculate about. And finally, even though so far I've not seen any limitations in App Inventor in terms of what parts of the robot you can control, what kind of applications you can develop, we may discover limitations in App Inventor. Maybe those limitations are not there in Java. To install, you want to make sure you have Google Chrome because my limited experience is it doesn't work with other browsers, thinking of Internet Explorer and Firefox in particular, so you're going to want to copy of Chrome installed on your computer. Next, you're going to want to install something called the Oracle Virtual Machine Environment or Virtual Box. The reason for that is that App Inventor is normally cloud-based. And at first said that FTC App Inventor would be cloud-based, but we got a lot of pushback because of the concern that once you turn they didn't have good internet access, you'd be stuck not being able to edit or change the program because you couldn't access the cloud. So they flipped to the exact opposite, and you create your own cloud on your computer. The demo that I'm going to give you is not using the internet at all. I use the internet to install stuff on my computer, and now the VirtualBox is creating a local internet server so that I'm not using the real internet at all. So you're totally self-contained, whether you're working at home, at school, or at a tournament. And finally, you download the FTC App Inventor, which is called an appliance. It's really a pair of servers, one for building a program and one for compiling. Actually, the editing step, I'll show you today, the build step, or the compile step, it's been my second server, but they're both installed with one appliance. So the computer's actually providing 2 internet servers locally without going out into the real internet. I'm going to start a demo in a minute. Questions about stuff I'm going over pretty fast to try to give you some ideas, but I know that this could be confusing. I was certainly confused and still am. Questions about what I've said, what it implies, what has happened there? I don't see your hand shout. Okay. So once you've got all that stuff installed, you start the virtual box. I've already done on this computer, but that just takes a few seconds. And then it gives you one choice, and that is to start the FTC App Inventor. You can click on Start, and that takes about 2-3 minutes. And eventually it comes up, and here's it comes up at the bottom, it says error, error. And then you wait another 2 minutes, and it says okay, okay. Then bring up your Chrome browser, you type in an arcane internet access 192.68.57.34, 566, and then 8888. That's all well documented. So next I'll do a demo. Okay, so Apple is designed to create Android apps. And when you use it that way, you drag stuff on the little screen in the middle. This is your Android screen. And you can put boxes, you can put graphs, you can put doodles on there, do all kinds of interesting things. But most of that is not important to the robot, because you're not going to be using the phone hands-on on the robot. We're going to be using it remotely from your drive station. So most of the things we drop onto the phone become invisible. The first thing is the exception. We drop the robot controller environment. That's all packaged for you. You didn't have to write any of that. That's just one drop and it's there. About the only thing you really want to think of doing is giving it its own name. Until you can edit names over here. Then you need to drop on what's called an op mode, which you will eventually have several, but one is sufficient to drive the robot. So this is the program that is for Telephone. There's a similar way to create a Thomas program. You give that its own name by clicking on it and say, the keyboard is in the dark here, so I forgive any typos. I'm just going to call this the first op mode, save that. And then I need a couple more things. I need a gamepad, and you drop it on, it's going to drop to the bottom, it's down here just below the screen, and I need at least one motor. So I'm going to drop that on. So you're basically in this design mode, you're telling Apple what objects your program is going to use. You can drop a second motor, a third motor, a fourth motor, you can drop servos, you can drop sensors. You're just selecting from a bag of tools or parts to tell the environment what you're going to be using. To keep it simple, one motor so far. I'm now going to click on blocks and changes the environment. And over on the left, I have a set of drawers. And that's in fine print on the upper left, but these color drawers are standard with MIT App Inventor, therefore PC App Inventor. So I've got a drawer for, the first one in fine print is control, and then logic, then math, and then text, then lists, colors, variables, and procedures. And with those drawers, you can create some very complex programs. For a robot, you're going to want to start with these drawers down here. And the four drawers that I have are named after the four things I brought onto my environment. So I'm going to look in the robot controller drawer for something that allows the robot to report back to the joystick the driver station. So I'm going to scroll down and find that. And it's called telemetry. I'm going to drop that out there because I know I need that later. And then I'm going to go over to op mode. And I'm going to look at, it has a bunch of loops. And the loop that's important is when the main program is looping. You can get control on the init and the start of the robot and the stop, but the main one is when the program is actually running. And it's running in a master loop. So I'm going to drop that win on it. And this, anything I put in this box is going to get executed over and over again while the robot is running. Now I'm going to look in gamepad, and I'm going to scroll down looking for the left joystick Y. Right there says left stick Y, gamepad 1. So I'm going to drop that on here. So I'm now going to use that to read the left joystick off the gamepad. And I could put that value directly into the motor, but I'm going to make it just a little bit more complicated by going over it and getting a global variable, dropping it out here, and giving it a name. We'll call that MOT for motor. Oops, typos. Nothing is on. And then I'm going to go back to variables again and get, which is how you get the value of your variable, and set is how you set your variable. And I'm going to put set into my loop, and I'm going to put the value of the gamepad, and I'm going to say the variable I want to set is my one and only variable MOT. So in the loop, every time that loop goes around, it's going to grab the Y axis of the left joystick and put it in the variable called mode. Now I need to actually tell the motor what to do. I go over to this drawer and I search for motor power in this list, DC motor power. But that's actually the value of the motor. So you always have to distinguish between how to set it and how to get it. And look again for the set motor power. And that's really what I want. I'm going to drop that up here. I'm going to throw away this one because I don't need it. Drop in the trash can. And then I'm going to set the motor to the value of that variable. And then I'm going to put my telemetry thing in here so that it reports back to the drive station what the value is. So I need another get to do that. So I'm going to go back to variables, get a get, put this over here as a number, click on here, and then I need to give it a name, so I go over to text. Doing this pretty fast to give you a flavor of it all. And then I'm going to say left, because I'm going to guess this is going to be the left wheel for the robot. Okay, so if I stop here in my man build, which is the menu above, I would have a program that would allow the left joystick to control the left motor on the robot. If I spend another couple of minutes, I could add a second motor. I could grab the value of the right joystick's y-axis, copy its value into a variable, copy that into the motor, and now I've got two joysticks driving the robot. So in a matter of about 5 minutes, I can create a tractor drive for my robot. If I spend a little bit more time, I could drop sensors into the environment. I could check the value of the sensor. As an experiment, I used a touch sensor. I pretended that it was hooked to a mechanism on the front of the robot, so that whenever the robot hit a wall, it would stop. And then you also not just stop, you can have it back up and turn. That programming would probably take another 5 minutes to program. And it probably wouldn't work the first time, so it probably take another 20 minutes to debug. And you'd be up and running with the program that drives the robot and use sensors. If you add servos, you drop servos into the environment, and you program the servos much similar to the motor, except you're not using power, using servo position. So that's a quick demo. We have a couple of thoughts on all of this. One is you can use the Intelitech videos that were posted about a week ago. They're linked to the OTOP site to learn this stuff one step at a time in the comfort of your school or home or club meeting room. Another is we're going to start holding workshops. Might as well put the lights up for a minute. We'll get you down and do some more demos. There'll be a set of workshops at the University of Portland starting a week from today. In the morning, the main event is 2.5 hours where we'll go slowly through academic. You don't go both days, you pick which today. It's primarily designed for coaches, but if there's a team member that's going to serve as a leader of the team, that team member can sign up as a student coach to attend that workshop. A couple of us will be up and down on Saturday, and I'll probably do by myself on Sunday. We've got a few Gale robots that we can share and a few laptops, but if you can bring a robot and a laptop, that's all the better. Even better, pre-install the app inventor based on instructions that we sent on the website, so that you'll be using your own environment. If you can't do that, come anyway, and we'll share the equipment, laptops we have, and send you home to do it yourself as a homework assignment. The goal is to get as many coaches and team leaders up to speed, happen better as quickly as possible. We'll be supporting that through email or other means during the season. Another way of thinking about that workshop is if you take that workshop and then you take the ones led by Team Access and Gary Mitchell in the afternoon, you'll learn similar things about the job environment. By the end of the day, you may say God is the only way, but you made an informed decision. Or you may say, I want to use that together for a month and then switch to God later, a different informed decision. So those workshops will be a good way to understand your choices and begin to build confidence that you can do it either way. We'll hold other workshops, we haven't scheduled them yet, will partly be based on demand. So I'm going to do just an informal poll in a minute and ask you about your interest in these kinds of workshops. I'm also interested in what we're going to do for people that are not here in the Portland area. Hopefully a few of those are live streaming. We've got some ideas on how to use Skype, your whole workshop remotely, so that we get access around the state. Excuse me. So, how many people are thinking about going to the University of Portland next weekend to learn about this stuff? Okay, a few, good. Any more? Great. How many would be interested in other opportunities to attend a live workshop to learn either about Athens or Java? Okay, once more. And how many think they're going to be using the IntelliNet videos that are available for both Athens and Java? Okay, once more. Anybody interested in a Skype workshop so that you don't have to drive anywhere? You're interested in that? Yeah, my experience, live is better, but sometimes you just can't get to the live place, and doing something over Skype is a lot better than not doing it at all, because it gives you a chance to sort it together. One problem with the demo I just gave is that it implies that that's how easy it was the first time. It wasn't that easy the first time. I had to spend time searching for things. Sometimes you can't find what you need. So the real value of the workshop is making some mistakes so that you know that the learning process, so you can help other people through that learning process. The more mistakes you make, the more equipped you are to deal with mistakes during the season. So it's almost like you want to intentionally make mistakes. The workshop is very interactive in that regard. I think we'll be able to do some of that in a Skype environment, but it'll be a little harder to make it as live as working together in person. Okay, we're at questions about App Inventor. We're going to be talking about Java next, so let's keep the questions for a moment, focus on App Inventor, and then how it relates to your FPC robot. Oh, up there, please. When you create the app, can you export it to Java? Oh, can you export the source? Yes. The main purpose of that is so that you can move your program from computer to computer, because it's all local here, it's not living in the cloud, so it's quite useful to export and then email. The source is tiny compared to the cloud, so it's really easy to email or share it in Google Drive or you name sharing mechanisms. And then of course there's an import on the other end. I can think of two other reasons to export. One would be archival, if you want to just make sure that that environment doesn't crash. When you have to reinstall, you still have the program. to export for archival purposes. Another is that 3 teams may want to begin to learn source control this season, and there are free source control programs out there where you can file your programs, and you'll keep track of the differences as you change the program, so that you're 4 weeks in, and you want to go back to the program you had in week 2, you can use source control to do that. It'll also keep track of how different team members are interacting. So another reason to export important would be to use source control. Other questions? Let's see one way up here. Maybe Eric can relay the message to I've been in Windows, certainly Windows 7 works. I think that they allow Windows 10, but they may not have tested it yet, so I recommend starting with Windows 7, waiting for them to turn on the green light. This is officially a beta. I expect this week or so they'll come out with the official version, and then they may run it after that. There are instructions for installing it in a Mac environment. I would have reason to believe that once installed, it's going to work great in the Mac environment because it's all virtual. You're really doing it with a browser. So once you've got your servers working, it's really not an app of Windows. It's an app of the cloud, but it's not really the cloud. That's my day or it is to me. So Mac is supported as well. Another question? I see stretching. Shout if your hand is up or would like to ask a question. All right. So Gary's next. Gary Mitchell, Team Access, will be talking about the Android Java environment.
Looks like we've worked with the computer for a minute, so let me talk about the goal of my talk. I can't possibly teach you how to program in Java or Android technology, so I'm not going to try. What we're trying to do is give you enough information here that you can make at least the beginning of a decision on whether you want to try to use Android Studio or Java. So the title of the talk is it right for you? Okay. So it's time for us to embrace a whole new world. We're doing Java programming on Android. That's an interesting choice, Java on Android, because as you might have gotten an idea from Dale's talk this morning, there are some timing issues associated with this choice. But we'll all get together and we'll figure out how to make it work. So what are we talking about? Java is the official language of FTC for the 2015-2016 season. The game manual is pretty clear on that. It's the only official language. There are 2 development environments that are leading. We're just talking about one, and I'm going to be talking to you about the other, which is using Java on Android Studio. Now, Dale showed you this morning. I'm not going to go through all the details of it, but what I want to show is where we're focused with our work in programming this season. So there's 2 devices involved, 2 ZTE speed phones. But for this season at least, driver station, we don't have to program. You can already download the driver station app from the Google Play Store. It's ready to go. And at least as far as we know, Versa isn't going to release source code for this component this season. Which means we're really focused just on the phone that's going to be on the robot controller. And our environment is essentially going to be our Android phone and the Android Studio running on a laptop. That's the full scope of what I'm going to be talking about today. Our big questions are really, first of all, as a team, can we do it? The fact that first decided that they needed multiple levels here, App Inventor and Android Studio, suggests that maybe some teams are going to find this a little challenging. Is it too much for us? Will we be at a disadvantage if we don't use it? And will we be able to compete in time if we do? I think these are significant questions for all teams to answer. And one that's come up repeatedly, just how different is it from Robot C? So we're going to try to answer all these questions today. What's the difference between programming on the NXT versus programming on Android? Using Java versus Robot C, Android Studio versus the familiar idea of the returning team who used Robot C last year, and how you make a choice between using App Inventor or Android Studio. Right? There are some things that we can't cover, as I mentioned when I started. We're not going to talk about Java language syntax or how to use Android Studio, FCC software development kit specifics, or the Android application framework. Now, in the workshops that Bruce mentioned next weekend, and we'll be running in the afternoons, we will be going into these things. And the goal of those workshops is for you to leave at the end of the day, understanding how to move around in Android Studio and use it to write code, to be able to develop your own simple teleapp, and have everybody leave that day with a functioning teleapp program. So we're not going to detail programming stuff today. So what's the biggest difference? Well, from my perspective at a high level, I'd say it's the software architecture. So what's the software architecture? Software architecture is all the components in the system that fit together, how they interact. And that's a significant difference between the NXT and Android. So if you have ever programmed on an NXT, whether you use Robot C or you use NXTG, it was very similar. At the bottom level of the software stack, there's NXT firmware, and that's what allowed the software that we write to talk to partners. There's some sort of a firmware there on top of that for the language. So when you first got Robot C, you had to install your firmware on the NXT. And then on top of that, all lumped together, you had programs. So programs you can sample along with the programs you wrote. And many teams will have multiple programs for autonomous to implement different autonomous strategies. We'll have a teleapp program, and all those are just sort of floating around in the same area on the NXT. Okay. Now this is a little hard to see the detail, but you don't need to see it to get the main idea. There's a lot more complexity in the Android software architecture than there was with the NXT. Now, unfortunately, when everything's working well, we're not going to see that much. Okay? And where we sit with our applications is right in here, this application layer. So, for example, we've got the contact manager and the bottom of these are apps that are floating on your Android system. The app that we developed for controlling the robot, it's going to be just like it. Right. Now, one big difference between Android and the NXT is how memory is handled. I mentioned that a little bit, but on the NXT, you have all your code in one section. So if I write 3 programs and I have one configuration file, all of those programs can access that same file. This isn't the case on Android, because Android was written to try to be a secure environment. An app has its own data, and other apps can't get it. So if you want to develop multiple autonomous applications, quote unquote, for your Android robot, you're going to need to build all that into a single app, unless you want to go through a lot of work to process partition boundary. So what we end up with is a single robot controller app. Some of you may have already experimented with this, that is going to implement multiple op modes. So in this new technology, an op mode is what we would have thought of before as a program. So if I have 3 different ways I run autonomous, and in prior seasons I would have 3 autonomous programs, I'll now have 3 autonomous op modes that would be part of my one robot controller app. I'll have a teleapp op mode that represents teleapp functionality. And each of these op modes, so that it can appear in the menu for the drivers to choose on the driver's screen, will be registered through another class called an op mode register. All Android apps have resources associated with them, and this is an area of opportunity for you to learn more professional programming techniques, because it allows us to separate things like strings that you might want to display or send via telemetry from the code and put them into resource files and make them more easily manageable. So what's the bottom line here? Well, definitely compared to Robot C, Android Studio is a professional development environment. It provides all the tools that we might want to have as software engineers for doing that. Robot C was built more as an educational tool, so it's a streamlined environment. So we'll see things in Android Studio that we have to learn about. We didn't need to know before. And I'd say App Inventor is probably somewhere in between. I believe that the estimates are that there are about 9 million Java programmers in the world. There are about 3 million App Inventor programmers in the world, at least what I've been able to glean from searching on the internet. I've heard this question from others, so I thought I would just address it. So why can't we just use Robot C? Well, one very good reason is the rules say we can't. It's also not available, so it's almost a moot point. Your choices are App Inventor or Java with Android Studio. But you're going to gain a lot if you make this move to Java. Right? So as I just mentioned, there are 9 million Java programmers in the world. It's arguably the #1 programming language in the world. It certainly contests with C. If you look at these two lines here, these are, and this is for an index. It is supposed to be a measure of the popularity of the language. And the two top ones from 2002 to 2015 are C and Java. So you're learning a very remarkable skill. From the standpoint of programming for FTC, Java comes with a whole host of very useful libraries that you can leverage with your code. Things that you can now do very easily by leveraging somebody else's code in the Robot C environment. You have to write yourself. And if you really embrace Java and object-oriented programming, you're going to find that Java and object-oriented programming provide a much more natural way for you to model your robots when you're writing your code. Now the good news for those of you who know Robot C, because you've used it before, is that Java grew out of C and C++, and so there are a lot of common language concepts. So things like arithmetic and relational operators for doing math and making comparisons, variable declarations, basic language structures for looping and doing conditional tests, things like that. They're very similar between the two languages. So that's going to help reduce your learning curve when you try to make this jump to Java. But there are some significant differences as well. And these are the things that teams are going to have to deal with. So with Robot C, we had pragmas for telling the software what devices we need to interface with on the robot. 4 motors and 6 servos and a whole host of sensors. And the pragmas gave these names and made them available to our C code. And this happened at compile, which meant if you made a mistake and you called the motor in your pragma motor left, and in your code you call it left motor, the compiler will tell you you had a problem, and you know right away. Fundamental difference with the new environment is that we don't have pragmas because those are C compiler instructions, they're not language elements. And the configuration now is going to be done in 2 steps. Part of it will take place on the phone itself, and the rest of it is done in executable program statements. And here's the big catch. Any error testing will be done only at runtime. So if you name your motor left on the phone, and in your code you call it left motor, your Java code's going to compile just fine, there won't be any problems. But when you try to run the robot controller, you're going to get an exception, and your code won't do anything. And if you try to do that, if you know the competition when this happens, you basically drop it around and your robot's going to be capable. So this is going to be something interesting for you to do.
available online.
So I just told we're running a little late, so we're going to skip ahead. The slides will be available to you online, probably I suppose to your top website. Happy to do that for us. What I'm going to do at this point is talk about how to choose between Android Studio and Active. So the choice is pretty easy for Android Studio. If you already know Java or you have programmers that are experienced in text-based languages, it'll be a very easy job. If you have access to Java mentors and programs. Similarly, if you don't have any of these, you don't have sufficient hardware, because Android Studio is a bit of a resource kit. If you don't have good software mentors and your only programming experience is with graphical language, then App Inventor might well be a good choice. Consider using Java Android Studio if you maybe not very programmers, but you have an understanding of what variables are and program control statements like for loops and conditionals, things like that. You do have some access to software engineering mentors. And maybe most importantly, you're looking to grow the intelligence of the robot. So improve the integrity of the robot control system. Consider App Inventor if you have limited time. So I think Bruce's demo showed that it's fairly easy to get a simple program going with App Inventor. And if you don't have any programming experience, that might well be the way to go, because you'll have plenty of other things to be concerned with. So what does adopting Android Studio mean to you? Well, you're using the standard for Android itself. Bruce talked about it before, and he said you might have great job opportunities as a result of this. You'll have learned professional software development environment. You'll have learned essentially the #1 platform in the world today. You'll know that new features available in Java and Android Studio will always be available to you. You won't have to worry about waiting for them to be incorporated into an App Inventor. Talk about marketable skills. Oh, here's a good one. 9+ million potential programming managers. And we'll show you in the workshops next week. It's actually quite straightforward to implement a simple color app. So even though you're going to be dealing with Java code, thanks to all of the resources that First has made available to us, you can get started pretty quickly with this. So it needn't be as daunting as it might seem. Well, Bruce mentioned the ability to leverage advanced capabilities, maybe extend classes. That's certainly possible. There's no issue there. What are the cons? There's a lot of software to download, and it does take some time. Right? Now, what about App Inventor? Pros, low learning curve possibly, low install overhead. But the cons are also there. And Bruce talked about them briefly, so I won't belabor them. But if you have a very complex program, it becomes very difficult to manage in those graphical environments. How it's spread out over that two-dimensional space. And what we don't know yet is what kind of limitations may exist if you try to develop in App Inventor as compared to Java. For example, historically very few teams used LabVIEW because it was not supported as well and it was more difficult to achieve some really high levels of sophistication. If you want to proceed, you're going to have to download quite a bit of software. You get this list here, and when you're in the PowerPoint presentation, you'll see that I've provided links for you, so you can click on them and go right to the places where you can download. If you want to use Android Studio, you're actually going to need a pretty reasonably powered machine. The minimum requirement according to Google is 4 gigabytes. We're going to be running 8 minimum because it just doesn't run very quickly if you have low memory. Memory is the most important thing as opposed to processor speed here. All right. There's a lot of material available. First has provided some. There's a lot to just search in terms of Java and Android. What I've done here is I've listed the modules or the lessons in the Teletech training program. If you haven't been online and looked at that yet, they have 3 modules. The third module is for Android programming, and all of these lessons are available to you for gaining a leg up in terms of your learning curve. And they're not bad. I've gone through and browsed most of them, and the information in them is pretty good and pretty understandable. You can also find a lot of information on Java programming itself with Oracle. Oracle is a company that supports Java, and they have tutorials, they have full documentation about Java and Java APIs. Just about anything that you would want to know about Java, you can find online through an Oracle website. And as Bruce mentioned, we have 2 sets of workshops taking place next week. On Saturday and Sunday, there is basically one-day workshops. We're just trying to make them available to more teams. So each day in the morning, we'll have an accidental workshop that Bruce and others are going to lead. And then in the afternoon, we'll have an Android Java programming workshop that Team Access is going to run. For those of you trying to decide, as Bruce mentioned, it's a great idea to come to both. You can see Advent in the morning and get some hands-on experience with it. And then the hands-on experience with the Android Studio in the afternoon. The sign-up is through the Core-Top website. We have 15 teams signed up already, including some from as far away as Alaska. We've got room for 25 more. We have to limit the space in order to be able to make sure that we can provide a good experience to the attendees. So if you're thinking that you might want to attend this, you get a lot of value for 4 hours in the afternoon. Go ahead and sign up online, and we'll be emailing out information about prep and maps and so forth early in the week. So you'll be able to get a lot of details for it. And with that, I'll just turn it over if anybody has any questions.
There we go. Questions? There we go. What's your question? Nice job.
Tell me if I have a question on it. Using Java, can you utilize pre-existing executables and incorporate them into your program? So anything that you've got an Android library for or Java library for, as far as we know at this point, you should be able to utilize. So you can add them to the dependencies in your code and use them.
Other questions? Well, are all the Java experts who have no questions? Or they're going to get this amazing job? Who think about the workshop next weekend? Yeah, how much time is that? What up? Here we go. Questions? The workshop is at the University of Portland.
The workshop at the University of Portland, the sign-up is on the ORCOP website under the new technology page. I will send it out yet again. If you're not going to see my email, see me afterwards. Other questions? Okay. We have one person in the audience who's still here that's very interested says, I'm new and I want to join the FTC. Are you still there? Are you still here? He's outside. Okay. If you see him outside, see if he wants to be on your team. Next. Our next meeting, we're just going to do this out in the cafeteria. Working colleges, we show you the working colleges that want to meet with me to talk about FTC. Working colleges. Anyone here who wants to talk to me? Great. We can have a great conversation. I will be in the cafeteria after this. And in another spot of the cafeteria, another spot, we're going to do what do you expect from judging at 7:19 in over. I'm in room 422 on home. Where is this? They're in room 426, and where are those places? What's going to see the black t-shirts outside? You can't have to roll out. They will direct us. So room 422 and 426 for our breakout session. Okay. What else? Oh, benefit process. So October 10th, we're going to go through all the programming workshops again, along with a bunch of other stuff. But we're going to open that for workshops only, and then for our second year teams, and then all of that is expected actually to help. Other things. What? Oh, I promised I have to 1 minute. It's not going to be next right over tonight. Hold on.
I'm Robert Sweeter. A lot of you know me. I'm one of the judge advisors. there's a couple of things I want you to think about and remember. One is you should start your engineering notebook today. Or next week, or last month. Don't wait. Keep it up to date. It's important for a lot of the awards. The other thing to remember is this is a wonderful game. How many people who win the game advance to the next level of competition? How do you advance to the next level of competition? The judges determine almost everyone who advances. Keep that. In 422, we'll be giving a presentation about the engineering, some basics about the engineering notebook, and give you some insights into judging. If you want to come and listen to us, by all means. And the other thing I want you all to remember all season is to be gracious professionals.